Audio Jungle.
Doing the 7th team, we're going to talk about the Seattle Seahawks. I feel like I said this to Noah before we started. I feel like this is going to be the first one that we really have a big disagreement on, because after kind of going over everything that happened last season with them and their additions and subtractions that were made this season, I don't know. I really love this team. So you're going to have to try to talk me out of it, of why they aren't good or why they will not be good, because I'm finding it hard that they don't improve from last season.
All right. Well, yeah, last season they went 9-8 and they finished third in the NFC West, and they were 2-4 in their division. So, like, from a division standpoint, I think everybody, what is it? Them, Niners, or them, Rams. Who else is it? Cardinals. I mean, I think that division got better as a whole already. So
With who?
For them to go, I think
With
the
who?
Cardinals got better. I think the Rams are going to be just fine. And I think the Niners are going to be just fine. I don't think the Seahawks are better than either one of those two teams. And I think the Cardinals got better.
What did the Rams finish last season?
I don't know. I haven't dug that deep into their schedule yet.
They went 10-7.
Okay. I feel like they're still better than
The Seahawks went 9-8.
Yeah, I still
Seahawks
feel like
went 9-8.
Seattle's better.
Yeah, Seattle is better. You just
I
said
know,
that.
sorry. I meant sorry.
Well,
I think the Rams are better.
I'm telling you what you said.
I know. I didn't mean that. I meant I think the Rams are better.
I guess I just respectfully disagree. I think first and foremost, do I think the Cardinals got better? Yes. Are they one of my favorite teams? Yes. At a point, like, I know I've said some crazy stuff about them. At a point, they won 3 games last season. I still think that this team is very far away from being a real threat, but that's just, I feel like that's just kind of the facts. The Rams lost the best defensive player to ever play the game of football on the other side of the ball. So I'm going to say that they did not get better on defense this offseason. Is that fair?
Are we doing the Rams or are we doing the Seahawks?
I'm just saying,
I don't have any notes on the Rams.
I mean, do you sleep under a rock?
I know that they lost Aaron Donald, dude, but
okay,
I would like to actually look into the Rams as a unit.
Well, you just said they got better.
I said I think they're better.
Okay, listen, I'm just saying. And obviously the Niners are really good, but the Niners are 3 seasons back to back of deep playoff runs, and I don't know, anything can happen from like an injury perspective. So, like I said, I like the Seahawks. Last year, the 2023 season, Seahawks went 9-8, home record 6-3, away record 3-5. Key wins: they beat the Browns, the Lions, and the Eagles. Losses: they lost a bad game to the Steelers.
Definitely that game.
They need to split with the Rams. They lost both games to the Rams. And man, there was just every game they were in it until the very end, besides when they got the absolute shit rocked out of them by the Ravens.
Yeah, that was a tough one if you're a Seahawks fan.
So that was their 2023 season. Their roster losses, they got rid of Jamal Charles. I don't think that that's a negative. He wasn't really doing anything for that football team at all. And when he did,
it's just a name worth mentioning that they got rid of.
He fell off so hard. It's kind of wild.
Yeah.
Quandre Diggs, another safety, was there forever. He was old. And then they lost Jordan Brooks. Do you have anybody else that they lost that you feel is like worth mentioning?
Probably their offensive coordinator.
Okay.
Shane Waldron. He's gone.
Okay.
I think other than him, that's it.
Okay. Additions that they made this offseason, they got Laken Tomlinson, who's a vet who's been in the league forever. They drafted Christian Hayes, the guard from UConn, who I literally, like, I told you that I thought he was going to go in the first round. He didn't. They got Jerome Baker, middle linebacker, to fill that spot from Jordan Brooks, who honestly I think kind of Jerome's a little bit of a better player than Jordan Brooks. Re-signed Leonard Williams. They drafted Byron Murphy the second, the D tackle out of Texas, who I said was the best defensive player in the draft this season. You hire Ryan Grubb, the OC from Washington, who did some special things with the Washington football team over the last few seasons. And then you fire Pete Carroll, which was a big loss, obviously. And you hire Mike McDonald, who was the Ravens defensive coordinator, who everybody speaks extremely highly on. And then you get him in the building, who I thought was like the biggest home run hire from a head coaching perspective this offseason.
Yeah, I like him. And obviously we've seen that those Ravens defenses have been really good. So I think that's a huge move, replacing Pete Carroll with a guy like that. I think you mentioned everybody that you didn't mention that they signed PJ Walker. You forgot to throw him in there.
The backup QB.
Third string, yeah.
Okay. So I guess the first thing that I want to bring up is obviously Pete Carroll's old as hell. It was at a point during the offseason where everybody kind of thought he was coming back, and then he was kind of asked to step down, and he did step down for reasons. I think he was just kind of a little bit past his prime. I think that he doesn't have his fastball anymore. And I felt that the ownership group was like, hey, we want to do right by you. Like, step down. We'll give you a position like within the team, but like, we need to get somebody else in here to.
Yeah, like kind of go out on like a semi-good note. It's not like that last season was great, but it's not like it was horrible. Like they still had a winning record, but they didn't make the playoffs. So like truly it could have been much worse, but I think that was probably the right move as well. He's like 80 years old. So I think he's pretty old.
Yeah, he's old. Hold on. Pete Carroll age check.
72.
Yeah, like that's old. To be a head coach in the NFL, like I think that's pretty crazy.
Yeah. He's had a fucking great coaching career, ride off in the sunset, move down to California and go watch USC play.
One of the greatest ever, obviously. So shout out to him. But the reason why I think that they needed to make something shake, because this roster is in like win now mode. And I felt like they sat there, they saw that Mike McDonald was available for them to hire. And they were like, we honestly need to get a new guy in here. And they went out and got him. How do you feel about the hire?
I mean, I think it's great. Like I said, I think we've sat here and we've watched how good those Ravens defenses were. Obviously, going from a defensive coordinator to a head coaching position, there will probably be some growing pains. But I mean, I like the roster as a whole. My biggest concern for this team is the fact that they lost Shane Waldron, who I think is a really good OC and really got the best out of Geno. So that's where I'm hesitant with this team as far as success goes.
Well, what about the hire of Ryan Grubb? Do you have any opinion on that?
Honestly, I don't. I don't really have. I mean, okay. So was he the reason that Washington's offenses were so good, or was it because of that head coach?
I mean, Ryan Grubb was calling the plays for Washington.
Okay, that's fair. And we obviously saw that Washington had an elite offense last season.
Last few seasons.
Yeah, last few seasons for sure. And I guess they were the ones that turned Michael Penix around and got him drafted 8th overall.
I mean, bro, we watched Michael Penix play at Indiana. Like he was like whatever. Like honestly,
there was not a single part of me that thought he was going to be a first round quarterback, let
top
alone
10 pick.
Get drafted.
Yeah, and then he went there, obviously balled out. I mean, Ryan Grubb obviously played like a massive role in that. And even if Kalen DeBoer does have, let's say, his hands on that offense, like that's fine, because Ryan Grubb was a major part of that, and he's going to take a lot of that with him.
Yeah, I mean, I like it. I think it'll be good. That's kind of changing my mind on this offense, but I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what happens. And maybe it gets to a point where like I don't know. Is there any this can't be Shane Waldron can't be the only good offensive coordinator that Geno Smith has played for in his entire NFL career. So
I couldn't tell you. I mean, I think that this was this was his last stop where he's had an opportunity to compete for a job. I think for a very long time he was not taken as a serious person. The reason why I like this offense is, and why I'm not worried about the offense, is because of all of the weapons that they have on this offense.
They have
You
a
still
lot
have,
of
you still have Tyler Lockett, which at this point in his career, we know who Tyler Lockett is. He might be getting a little older, but I still think he's productive. You take Jackson Smith and Jigba in the first round last year, who I love Jackson Smith and Jigba, and I think he's going to be a dog for a long time. And
It's
then
almost a guarantee that you're good in the NFL if you're a wide receiver from Ohio State.
yeah, and then lastly, like you have DK Metcalf, who has all of like the makeup to be like an actual top 10 wide receiver in the league. We haven't seen it yet, but I think that he has like that true makeup to like be a dominant number one wide receiver. And on top of that, Kenneth Walker is like actually like nasty.
And then they have that their backup is also really good too.
Zach Charbonnet.
Charbonnet, yeah. And then Noah Fant is like not a bad tight end, but like we haven't really seen a ton from him. But like I think he has potential still to be a decent tight end in the NFL.
And that's why I'm not overly worried about Ryan Grubb like in this position. And then lastly, like Geno Smith, who's actually an extremely accurate quarterback. I'm not saying that Geno Smith is like a world beater, but he throws the ball extremely accurate. And he obviously made a big turnaround in his career that we can look at him as a mid-tier, or if you want to say one above mid-tier starting quarterback. I think that's like fair to say at this point. The last 2 seasons.
Yeah, I think he took a step back a little bit last year. Or was it? Yeah, last year he won comeback player of the year 2 years ago, right?
Yeah, he had an elbow injury last year. That's all.
Yeah, that's what I was just trying to look that up to see like how many games he missed, because that was gonna lead into my next point as to like looking at some of these stats for their offense. They're not great, and losing an OC probably isn't going to make that much better. So that's another thing that I'm like kind of hesitant about. So like I'm looking at this right here. They're just like middle of the road towards the bottom of in like all of these offensive stats. So like 17th in points per game, 22nd in yards per game. They're horrible on fourth down. Not great on third down either. And then like bottom of the road in touchdowns per game too. So like I don't know, that doesn't really stand out to me as a team that's going to take a jump forward, if that makes sense.
But you just said how great of an offensive coordinator Shane Waldron was.
I know,
and now
that's
you're
what
sitting
I'm
here
concerned about.
You're sitting here.
Maybe it was a 1-year fluke,
and that's why. And
Shane
that's
Waldron
why,
at when Geno won comeback player of the year.
I know. I usually,
but then again, we don't know what we're getting. Like we don't know what's going to happen with Ryan Grubb.
You're right. You're right in saying all of this, but like you're also sitting here like they moved on, like Shane Waldron and them like split and then hired a new offensive coordinator. Obviously, honestly, something that absolutely nobody talks about was the health of this team last year. Their entire offensive line was hurt the entire year last year. They didn't have Charles Cross, their left tackle. They didn't have Abraham Lucas, their right tackle. They were hurt in and out of the lineup the entire season last year and could not stay healthy. That's a big problem. They had the most third and 5 and plus in the entire NFL last year out of all 32 teams. So that's another reason why you see that like last in touchdowns, bad on third down, is because they were not putting themselves in a position to succeed on like any of those downs. And if you watch them last year, you probably noticed that because their play calling was so bad. Like it was literally like over and over again. It was like deep shot, run up the middle, deep shot. And like, if they didn't get that, it was like, it was over for them. And in games like the Ravens one that I brought up, when that's not clicking, they just would get blown out because they didn't have a shot of coming back because they were playing more go big all the time and not playing in a position to like dip and duck or whatever you might want to say, like play a competitive style of football. It was either go for broke or like you were going to lose.
Yeah, that's fair. I did just look this up and it says that Geno played 15 games last year. Now, obviously, like you said, their O-line was hurt, but still.
Yeah, it was I just think that they had like a weird season last year, and sitting here saying that they won 9 games with all of these problems is like kind of impressive. And I do like a lot of their talent on this roster. So let's get into their weaknesses on this team. I put quarterback as a question mark. I think that you could obviously get better at quarterback from who you have at Geno Smith, but I wouldn't say that he's a complete weakness. I put health, and then I put offensive line, Charles Cross and Abraham Lucas. Those young guys like need to stay healthy.
You have to have those guys playing week to week if you want any success, because it's not like Geno's going to be a guy that's going to run around and be mobile. He's 30 something years old, 31, 32,
33 probably. I don't know.
So it's not like he's out there, and it's not like he was ever like super mobile in the first place. So it's not like he's going to be out there running for his life. So you definitely got to keep
Geno Smith age check. You can keep talking. My bad.
Okay, I thought you had it. I thought
he's 30. He's 33.
33. Yeah. So, even before age 33, it's not like he was out there like moving around. It's not like he's immobile. It's not like he's in a wheelchair, but still, you gotta have those guys playing on a week to week basis.
What makes them special? I brought it up already. Their offensive core is legitimately special. I mean, you got to keep
DK Metcalf from not getting penalized for punching dudes in the face every game.
Yeah, and listen, everybody
got to keep his roid rage in check.
Everybody infamously remembers, if you have been a longtime listener of this show, that last season I absolutely called out DK Metcalf, and he went for like 3 touchdowns against the Cowboys. So,
and he went off against the Eagles too.
Yeah. So whatever. I put what makes him special, their offensive core. Like they have a bunch of like DK Metcalf is young, Jackson Smith-Njigba is young, Kenneth Walker's young, Zach Charbonnet is young. And then you have Tyler Lockett, who's been doing it for a long time. Like, I don't know. I think that that's a pretty special group of skill position. What do you think?
Yeah. I mean, I think on paper that skill position competes with like a good bit of the rest of the NFL. I think it's probably in the mid to upper tier as a collective unit.
I think it's up there
in the rest of the league.
I think it's up there. Yeah. I mean, I don't know who has obviously it's dependent on subjective for the people who are listening.
Because Geno Smith has had one really good season his entire NFL career.
That, and how you feel about if you think Jackson Smith-Njigba will take the next step, I guess, is how you could look at it technically.
I think he takes the next step and honestly starts to move into that Tyler Lockett role, and Tyler Lockett is the one that kind of ends up taking a back seat.
I hope so.
Tyler Lockett's had a great career, and he's been really good for a long time. And I think he's still going to be good this year, but I think that we're going to start to see JSN be the wide receiver 2 probably in this offense.
So do you have anything else that you want to add before we go into the 2024 predictions, or no?
I mean, I just want to kind of touch on their schedule for this year. They've got the 15th easiest schedule, which I think helps. It's literally right in the middle. So, I mean, I think that certainly plays into your favor of them being good this year. I would have to look at what their schedule was for last season. But, I mean, if you're sitting at 15th easiest and it seems like you added some good pieces on this team, I think that you are either going to be... I don't think this is going to happen, but it would make sense that if you were as good or better.
Yeah. Do you have anything else that you want to add about their schedule, or are you good?
No, I'm good for now.
So for 2024 prediction, I said 10 wins. I mean, I know that sounds extremely bold, but they won 9 games last year. They were a dumpster fire from their run defense perspective. They were a dumpster fire from getting offensive drives to extend and getting plays to third and manageable instead of third and long. And I would have to think with a new feel in that building. You obviously you bring in Mike McDonald, who is a culture setter. I think, like I said, I think he's probably the home run hire of the offseason, in my opinion. Obviously, coming in for Pete Carroll is never an easy thing to do. The big question mark, we talked about it, was Ryan Grubb. If he can step in, like I said, I don't think that he's in the worst position in the world because you're stepping into an offense with a ton of talent. So can you make that work with a veteran quarterback like Geno Smith, who's been playing forever? Lastly, I think overall, adding Byron Murphy to this defensive front, I think it does matter. But the thing that is going to make this defense special is Mike McDonald. I think that he's going to be able to get the most out of these guys. I think that this defense is going to have a completely different feel. And even last year, bro, at times, like, the defense was sneaky. That I always think back to that. I think it was either Sunday night or Monday night game against the Eagles when that defense was just so scrappy against the Eagles towards the end, and kind of, I forget who it was, Julian Love.
Julian Newman, yeah.
Julian Love made a ridiculous interception against Jalen Hurts, and that, I think that Mike McDonald,
that was such dog shit.
That was a tough loss. I think that he's going to be able to get the most out of that defensive group, and like I said, I think that they got better this year, and the reason I say that is because you add some help on the defensive line, which you desperately need. You have guys get healthier, and then your younger guys, like your younger players, are a year older now. And I don't know, actually sitting here talking about it now, maybe Geno is the biggest question mark like on this entire team. So
I think it is.
If Geno can like play like decent, like I'm not asking him to play at a stellar level. I can't sit here and think how they don't get to 9 wins. And if they are healthy, I think that they can finish second in this division behind the Niners.
Yeah, I mean, I pretty much agree with like everything that you said. I just don't feel comfortable banking on Geno Smith after we've seen who he is from an entire career standpoint. So that's my only hesitation. What
did he say? They slept on me, but I ain't called back. Or what did he say?
It was something about writing.
They wrote me off. They wrote me off, but I ain't right back. Listen, I like Geno Smith. I hope he plays well. Obviously, they wrote me off, but I ain't right back. So, Seahawks, for me, 9 to 10 wins, second division. It sounds like for you're going to probably be around, and you haven't said it yet, so I'm going to guess like 6 to 7, third in the division.
I have them at 7 and 10.
I just think that's weird. That's just like such a weird record.
Yeah,
listen, we'll talk about
it is weird.
We'll talk about the Rams, obviously, but I
don't know. I just don't feel great putting like so much faith into Geno Smith.
Yeah. I get it.
I think that win last year, I think they realistically were like 8 and 9. Maybe worse. I have to go back and look at look at it again, but like that Eagles game was crazy.
They won though.
I know.
Like they won.
Like that I know that. That's a bounce that you get that you don't get this year is what I'm getting at. Like that's a win that you don't that's a win they got last year. Oh, come on.
What about when the Seahawks were driving down the field and set up Jason Myers on a 38-yard field goal to win the game against the Rams, and he absolutely just didn't have the leg to do it. It looked like me kicking the football. Like that's one that swings their way too. So
okay, yeah, I know. I'd have to go back and look through every game again, and I'm sure that there's going to be certain bounces that didn't go their way and went their way. But the Eagles just collapsed. James Bradbury looked like a goddamn traffic cone out there.
Yeah. The Eagles fucking
Drew Lock led them to a victory. That shouldn't happen. Yeah, I know, exactly.
That was the best day of my entire life.
That might have been the most painful loss of the
Seahawks are winning the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I got them at
sorry.
7 and 10.
My bad. I just blacked out for a second. All right. Seattle Seahawks fans, let us know what you think. If you guys catch this video, are we wrong? Are we right? Or are you guys in panic mode? Let me know.
Audio Jungle.